Good afternoon for this special merged episode, and wouldn't I be looking silly for it, okay? Oh well, y'all know, y'all know what I look like, mop head. And yes, I'm getting ready to get a new mop, okay? So just bear with this a little bit longer, but for the winter, I'm getting a new one. So it might be straight, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna pick out. Okay. But anyway, let me quit with the preliminaries because this is going to be not that lengthy of a video, but I want to try to keep it at 30 minutes or less. Okay? So let's get right to it. Today, October the 4th, 2025, is World Ostomy Day. World Ostomy Day takes place every 2 years around the world. Now, every year, the first Saturday of October is just Ostomy Day, and that's here in the United States. Other places, countries, and whatnot, they may have an Ostomy Day in their region, but I don't know of any. But I don't search to find out either. But World Ostomy Day, which is today, is where ostomies are we try to promote awareness, and the attention of ostomies are promoted around the world. So now, last World Ostomy Day, YouTube had a few videos up, and hopefully this year we'll have more where people from around the world will do videos to discuss their ostomy. So I'm participating this year. That's the only participation that I'm doing. The last time we had World Ostomy Day, oh, they gave us free t-shirts and everything. This time they didn't give us jack, okay? So they just wanted us to participate. The only way you could get a t-shirt was you couldn't even buy them, because I would have bought one, to support the cause. You had to participate in the something. I forget what it was, but it's like a walk. I think it was the World Ostomy Walk or something like that. And then you would get a t-shirt for participating and raising funds for people to sponsor you for the walk in your city or whatever. I can't do all that, so therefore I don't get a t-shirt. So I might just order me. I'm thinking maybe after the fact they're going to have some left over, I'm quite sure. Then they may put some up for sale. If that's the case, hold on, y'all. My back's itching. If that's the case, I'll purchase one if it's not too expensive, because I can get an ostomy shirt anywhere, to tell you the truth. They sell them all the time. But I haven't bought one in a while. That last one I really liked because it was through the UOAA, which is the United Ostomy Association of America. Okay, now moving on. Okay, first of all, and yeah, you're going to be seeing the magoos, because I did write my notes down so that I can, keep going and not, throw it off and all that stuff. Okay, what is an ostomy? And another word that we call it, belly butt. Okay, so what is a belly butt or an ostomy or a stoma? That's the correct terminology for it, a stoma or an ostomy. You have three types of ostomies. You have a urostomy, which is what people get. Think of Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. He didn't get the urostomy, but he got something else that's similar to it. But a urostomy is when, okay, for instance, if you need that because of cancer, or if there's another issue that requires you. I don't know much about the urostomy, so I can't give the reasons why you would have a urostomy. But if you happen to need a urostomy, that's what collects the urine, but it's done in the same manner as a ileostomy and a colostomy. And that is when they take a piece of your intestine and they pull it, they form a stoma by pulling it, putting a hole in your belly and pulling it through, folding it back, so it actually looks like a butthole, to tell you the truth. But that's what a stoma looks like. So a stoma for a urostomy would be the same, except that collects the liquid in a bag, and the colostomy and the ileostomy collects the stool in the bag. So that's how we go to the bathroom. Okay. ostomies, there are three types. Like I said, there's the urostomy, there is the colostomy, and the colostomy is, colostomy is on the left side of the belly. So typically that is, I mean, you can have an ileostomy on the left or colostomy on the right, but that's usually in rare instances. If they have to move your stoma for whatever reason, or if it's done in such an emergency nature that they're just trying to get you open and get the stoma placed. So, but basically your stoma for a colostomy, it's on the left side of the belly, and for the ileostomy, it's on the right side of the belly. So mine is over here. It's an ileostomy. Okay, and I forgot to introduce you to Ernestine. There's a place called the Shadow Buddies Foundation. It started out as a foundation for children who are facing difficult surgeries or life-threatening illnesses, so they would make them a Shadow Buddy doll to have with them for comfort, almost like a teddy bear. And so this lady came up with the idea, and then it took off. And so they began making Shadow Buddies for all sorts of illnesses, anything you can think of. And so then they got into where they made Shadow Buddies for adults as well, especially individuals in nursing homes, individuals facing like open heart surgery, something that's very scary. And so they just moved on and on. So now Shadow Buddies, and they're still in existence, they still make these dolls, and they're for anyone. So I ordered me a Shadow Buddy. And so I've had Ernestine for about a year. That's what I named her. And Ernestine, like me, has a stoma. So this is a way of you seeing what a stoma looks like. Now she has a colostomy because her stoma is on the left. So Ernestine has a colostomy. I have an ileostomy, so my stoma, if she had an ileostomy, it would be on the right. And I don't know where the urostomy is. I've never seen one. Okay, so this is Ernestine. Hi. So she's saying hi with her debut. I've never used Ernestine, but I got her actually for a prop. And so in explaining the stoma and everything, you can do it with Ernestine the doll, especially if I ever had to explain it to a child. And I probably will someday with my little great nephew once he's old enough to understand. Because if he ever sees my stoma or sees the bag, he might say, "What's that?" And then I would let him know exactly what it is. And then I can use Ernestine the doll. Another thing, I was given this right before my surgery. It's actually a replica stoma. And they gave me this and all the supplies to practice changing the bag. I never did it, because I had learned it off YouTube and everything. And so I just decided not to use it, but I still have this stoma. And it's a sticky stoma too. I thought about sticking this to Ernestine instead of that sold in one, but it might fall off. Oh, here's the bag. Okay, so the supplies are here. They gave me a couple of bags, and these are just replica bags. They're small, but I was to use the bags to practice changing the stoma. Changing the bag when I first was about to have surgery. But like I said, I was too nervous and scared and everything else, so I didn't do it. Okay, so I've explained to you the three types of ostomies. Now, on to the reasons why one may need an ostomy. And that is the reason why I personally promote awareness, and others as well. But that is one of my main reasons, because no one is exempt to having an ostomy. So all these stigmas and different things that surround ostomies, be careful, because you might wake up one day with one. And so here are the reasons why a person can wind up with an ostomy. Okay? Very few ostomies are planned. All ostomies are to save your life. That's your number one reason. They don't do ostomies nilly-willy just to be doing it. The only time a doctor may do that is if you're suffering like from IBD, IBS, or something where you just need a temporary, where you need to give your intestines a rest. So they'll usually do what they call a temporary ileostomy for 6 months. So you have that surgery, and then you go back in 6 months later after your intestines have had a chance to rest and heal and whatnot, and then they go back and they reverse it back to normal. And in lots of cases, that works, and a person no longer needs an ostomy forevermore. And then in some cases, after a few years or even a few months or immediately, they go into even a worse flare or whatever and have to turn around and get the ostomy back. So some people have had more than one ostomy surgery, other than if their stoma, needs to be moved or something like that. But you have people who have had more than one ostomy surgery. I've heard from some who have had as many as 3, where they go reverse, because most people, if they could be reversed, they would plan to do that. But some are permanent, from the get, like mine. I knew mine wasn't going to ever be reversed when I got it. And that's the way I preferred it, because my doctor was going to actually do a colostomy and see how I would do. And then 6 months later, she was going to go through and reverse it. And I told her, nope, if I have to go through this, let's just make it permanent. And she was like, are you sure? Do it. And I'm so glad I made that decision. Okay, anyway, here are the reasons why you may need an ostomy. Okay, 1, and these are not in any particular order. It's just the way that I wrote them. But these are your reasons. A gunshot wound. You can be shot in your abdomen or shot anywhere, actually, and you may wind up, but usually it's in your abdominal area where the bullet may have gone through your colon or your intestines, or it may have gone through an area that connects to it, and they have to do the ostomy so that your surrounding areas, so that it can save your life, and you don't bleed out or whatever and pass away. So gunshot wounds is one reason why you can have an ostomy. Number 2, puncture or impaled. So a puncture would be something like a stab wound. Impalement could be you might fall off a ladder and land on a spiked fence. All of a sudden, you've punctured your colon or you've punctured your intestines. You have to get an ostomy for them to repair that. And it's usually temporary for something like that, unless the damage is so severe that it has to be permanent. Okay? Birth defects. Some children are born with a birth defect, with maybe part of their intestine, or it may be something that's going on. They may not be able. Some children are born without rectums and anuses. So in that case, if that's the case, then they have to have an ostomy bag. They have to make that opening and create an ostomy for them so that they can go to the bathroom and live. Okay? The number 4, cancer. Then you have Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. Those are other reasons. A bowel blockage. Anybody can get a bowel blockage. In fact, before I even needed surgery or anything, I ended up with the bowel blockage due to inflammation. But you can end up with the bowel blockage for any reason. Constipation, you can end up with one from inflammation, or your bowels may decide to twist on their own for no apparent reason. And if you ever get a bowel blockage, you will know it, because you will have severe pain, and it comes out of nowhere. Okay? And it will have you doubled over. And so if they don't get to it in time, your intestine will begin to die. And if your intestine begins to die, they have to remove the part that has died. And lots of times there's not enough left to have you to avoid having an ostomy bag. So a lot of people have them as a result of an intestinal blockage. Car accidents, and that would come from injury. So we'll just say injury. You can get injured any kind of way instead, other than being impaled or punctured or shot. You can be injured. You can fall flat on your face and mess around and injure something in there, and you can wind up with an ostomy. And same way with the car accident. 9, childbirth. There has been people in my ostomy groups who went in for a regular childbirth, not C-section, but just your typical vaginal childbirth, and something tears in there, and they wind up with an ostomy, sometimes temporary, sometimes permanent. Another reason, botched surgery. You can go in for surgery for something totally different. And if they nick your colon, you will get infection, go sepsis, what they call it, periodontitis or something like that. That can happen, and you can wind up with an ostomy for that reason. Sometimes permanent, most times temporary. Okay, ruptured colon. You can wind up with a ruptured colon. With me, with ulcerative colitis, my colon actually ruptured on the table, but it was about to rupture, and that comes from the inflammation associated with the disease. So therefore, a ruptured colon will lead to an ostomy. Thank goodness I was already on the table getting an ostomy, but that's what led to complications for me because I had an infection that the doctor did not know that I had. And when my colon ruptured, the infection spread throughout my body. And there I was in the hospital for 3 months. And that first few weeks there, I had to fight for my life. Okay. We have two more. 12, C. diff. C. diff can cause you to get an ostomy. I've met and talked with those who ended up with an ostomy because of C. diff. Lots of times you can have C. diff and you typically know it, but you don't know what it is. But you can have C. diff and the inflammation from that. And if it gets too far gone, the infection, then you can wind up with an ostomy as a result of C. diff. And then you can get one. I put this as a reason, but I talked about temporary and reversals. That's a reason why you can have an ostomy. The doctor may want to give it to you temporary, or something may happen to where you need it just to be temporary for usually 6 months, and then it is reversed. Okay, so those are your reasons, and there may be other reasons out there for an ostomy, but those are the most common reasons that I've heard about, and I've spoken to people who have them because of those reasons. Okay, 13. 13.5 million people worldwide have ostomies, with 1 million being in the United States alone. So, and you got 13 other countries other than the U.S., but 13.5 million people in the world have ostomies. And I can tell you, everybody, if you're an adult, everybody knows someone who either has or have had an ostomy. Everybody does not tell it. And I think I've mentioned that before. But everybody knows someone or who has met someone with an ostomy. When you go out in public every day, somebody out there in public has an ostomy. You just don't know. That's all. Okay? We have a lot of celebrities with, or celebrities who are now no longer with us, who had ostomies. President Dwight D. Eisenhower had an ostomy. Sharon Osbourne has an ostomy. Adele Roberts, and we're not talking about Adele the singer. This one, I forget what she does. I should have wrote down their profession. There's a supermodel named Sarah Levitt who has an ostomy. She has an ileostomy like myself. Molly Pierce has an ostomy. Louise Thompson, Matthew Perry, and he ruined it for the ostomy community. In fact, I almost banished him from the list, but he had an ostomy. He was reversed, but he said so many horrible things about it that it just really zoomed the stigma so badly with the ostomy, and he told things that just were not true about it. And then, I mean, I don't know why he did that. Maybe he was angry because he had it, and it was his darn fault abusing opioids. That's why he ended up with it, and it did something. I think it ruptured him or something, and he wound up with the ostomy. But for him to go out there and do what he did, it really made the community mad. This was a couple of years ago, and so we really had to get out hot and heavy because people have died needing an ostomy simply because of the stigma associated with it. Some people would rather die. We have people coming to our groups, online support all the time and say, my doctor said I need an ostomy. I'm scheduled for surgery. I'm not going to get it. I would rather die. And then we take the time to convince them, no, get the surgery. It will save your life. Whatever you've heard about it, we'll tell you if it's true. And we don't sugarcoat anything. We tell it like it is, but we let them know you can live with an ostomy and it's easy. Do you want to live or die? Do you want to live or die? That's the question. Now, you say you rather die. Do you mean you rather die because you think this is going to be such a horrible thing? Or would you, if you knew that it wasn't going to be such a horrible thing, would you rather live or die? And so usually they want to live. We have talked a lot of people down from the cliff. I lost a friend who needed an ostomy. I do not know if it was stigma associated. I would assume that it was, because why on earth? And she had Crohn's disease. She was the size that I am now. And then when Crohn's disease struck her, which was, way before I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis. I had Crohn's colitis, both. But she was diagnosed way before me, and she died before I was diagnosed. But anyway, I remember her having such a severe case. She was my size, the size I am now, if not bigger. And she got down to under 100 pounds. And she needed the surgery, and she refused to get it. And so I think she was one I would assume, but I never asked her or I never spoke with her about it, as far as why her reason was for not getting it. I just knew that she wasn't getting it and didn't want it. And so therefore, she lost her life as a result. And suddenly, quite suddenly, as a matter of fact. But anyway, like I said, okay, let me keep going. But yeah, Matthew Perry, people have died. And so when you hear him say the things that he said, it just kind of shot everything that we've told people who said they would rather die to the curb. And we had that going on at the time when he did that. And so, yes, he's banished. Okay? But I added him because he did have one. Whatever he thought about it or not, but he shouldn't have said it and verbalized it. Y'all might could pull up the whatever it was he said. I didn't even listen to it. I read what he said and I was like, why would he do that? But anyway, Loretta Young has an ostomy. Al Guyberger, I think that's the name. Rolf Beniski has one. Blake Beckford. And I think one is a golfer, one's a football player, and one is something else. Marvin Bush, he is the brother of President George W. Bush and the other son of President George H. Bush. Nancy Lamott has one, and I mentioned Dwight Eisenhower. And there may be more out there. I know there's a few. There was one baseball player, and then there was a football player, which I think was listed here, and then there's a golfer who has ostomies. Okay, and we're going to be done in a few minutes, see? Okay, so now let's discuss supplies. First of all, let's see. It seems like I'm forgetting something. Well, I'm going to get to that. Well, we kind of touched on the stigma of ostomies and everything. And you all know my story, why I got it and everything. And it saved my life. And that's the reason, like I said, that is your reason for getting an ostomy. It's to save your life. For the most part, you will die otherwise. Some people, a miracle may happen and they may survive, or they can delay it or whatever. But for the most part, the doctor's not just going to perform the ostomy unless, lots of times it's to improve the quality of your life. So you may not necessarily die right then and there, or you may not even die. You might just keep suffering or whatever. It depends. But for the most part, ostomies are they are lifesavers. That's our logo and our slogan. Ostomies are lifesavers. But for the most part, more ostomies are done on an emergency basis than they are on an elective or, because it was planned basis. Mine was planned 1 month before I had it, and it almost got done as an emergency. I was hospitalized because I had such bad inflammation. It was just horrible. And so the doctor had me scheduled for surgery the following day, but she had put me on steroids a couple of days before. She scheduled me the following day. She scheduled me for the day after that. And so they did blood work testing, and they did another CAT scan of my abdomen, and they saw that the inflammation was beginning to go down. So she came in and she was like, well, we're going to cancel your surgery. She's like, for now, she was like, we're going to do your surgery on the 6th of January of 2021, Insurrection Day. I missed it, y'all. So she scheduled it, and this was in November. It was on actually Thanksgiving Day. My surgery is supposed to be Thanksgiving Day of 2020, but she was able to cancel it and then schedule it. She's like, that's going to give you a month to prepare. She was like, learn everything you can about the ostomy, all this, because I hadn't even considered. I knew about an ostomy and knew that that could eventually happen or whatever, but I didn't know it was going to happen at that time. I never even thought it was going to happen. So when she was getting ready to do it as an emergency, I knew nothing about the care of it or anything. You know, I knew about them and whatnot, but I still had to learn. So that month I spent online. I was all over the place learning about the ostomy. And believe me, I learned it too, because I was laid up for one. I was still sick, but we were just able to delay the surgery. So when I went in, I was prepared, okay? With that part, but had I not had complications, it would have been a breeze. But because I had complications, it was rough. But I still knew how to change a bag. Okay. Alrighty. So let's talk about the supplies. Speaking of bag change. Okay. I'm gonna show you everything that I use. Well, some of the stuff I use, because some things have been eliminated. Well, one item. Okay. I'm gonna show you an ostomy bag. And this is the box I'm on now. I have one left in here, so why not? Okay. So, oh, I have two in there. Okay, two more changes. Okay, this is an ostomy bag. This is what it looks like. Bags can either come pre-cut, which is what I prefer. After about 6 months, you have a measurer every month, or I don't do it, but every month you're supposed to measure your ostomy. I measure my ostomy maybe once, when I think about it, actually, once every 3 months. But mine has remained the same size, 25 millimeters. And let me show you the measurement chart. Now, when you first get your ostomy, mine is, let's see what 25 is. 20, here we go. This is 25, where my finger is next to the biggest. Okay? And why they go this size, I don't know, because they don't get that big unless it's something I don't know, okay? But mine is 25 millimeters, so after 6 months, when all the swelling goes down, mine was a lot bigger. It wasn't that gigantic size, but it was bigger when I first got it. And mine was totally oval-shaped. It was oval-shaped. I don't know why, but it stretched across. It was about the size of my finger in width. And then that was, and then it had this, but it was oval shaped. But anyway, after 6 months, I was able to get the pre-cut bags because I leveled out at 25 millimeters. And that's where I was the last time I measured, which was in August. So yeah, it's time for me to measure again, just to make sure, but I don't think it's changed. But anyway, so my bags are pre-cut, which makes things simpler, because when I used to have to cut the bag, talk about jagged edges into my stoma, okay? So now it's pre-cut, and that's it. So it's simple, okay? And you take the thing off, and the bag goes this way on top of your stoma, and that's how you stick it on. And then you have, because of course you don't want the bag to come off or unstick or whatever, you have what they call barrier extenders. And these, I call the barrier extenders and the M9 my two most important supplies. And so this is what a barrier extender looks like. You use 4, and it goes around the top of your bag, and it extends your bag size out. And then if anything ever leak under the bag, this will catch it. And so you don't have any leaks, basically. In fact, every leak I have ever had was my fault. Doing something I'm not supposed to do. And so if you do that, you're going to end up with the leak. Acting silly, okay? I've never had a leak just to have a leak. I've had one blow, and there's two types of leak. You have your regular leak, which means you might not have taken the time to put your bag on correctly, or you may have not chosen not to wear your barrier extender. You figure, oh, the bag is sealed real good, so I'm not going to do it. Next thing you know, a piece pops up and stuff seeps out. So that's a small leak, and your other leaks are fairly small. But you can have what we all dread, and we call ourselves ostomates. We dread the dreaded blowout. I've had one in my life, and like I said, anytime I've had any type of issue, it's been because it's me being silly. We are not supposed to eat corn, and we're not supposed to eat nuts because it can cause blockages, and it can also cause problems with the stoma. So we're advised not to eat it unless it's pureed or ground up real fine. Well, I found that I can eat cashews, and I can still eat cashews, and I can eat pecans and peanuts and everything else. But this particular day, I decided to eat some pistachios. And I couldn't be, I just had to be greedy. I couldn't just eat a handful and be happy that I was eating some. Oh no, I ate the whole bag, and it was a nice sized bag, okay? I ate that whole darn bag. I munched on them all day long. Munched on them while watching TV. Munched on them before bed. Munched on them in the bed. And so nothing had happened. Everything was fine that day. I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, something's not right here. And I looked up under the cover because I felt wet. I looked up under the cover and my bag was off. I had had a blowout, and it was from the pistachios. And it had just occurred because I think that's what had awakened me, because it was like 4 in the morning. So I had to slither like a snake out of the bed because I didn't want nothing, because everything was on my stomach. So nothing was on the sheets, because I always sleep with the towel over me anyway. And I have a special thing underneath my, on top of my mattress. It's a mattress pad, and I have a mattress cover, and all that stuff just in case. And that's something you just want to have just in case. So I already had all that, but I didn't want anything getting on anything, because that would have meant, okay, now I've got to wash. So I figured if I can slither my way to the bathroom, hold the towel that I keep over me, I'll be fine. I messed around. I'm walking to the bathroom. I'm easing. I slithered out of the bed. I'm easing to the bathroom. As soon as I got to the door, all of a sudden, I heard my stoma make this weird creaking noise, like you just probably heard, because my stoma's doing that now. It made this weird creaking noise, and all of a sudden, like a machine gun, I had to move the towel because it was such a pressure. It was like a machine gun. Boom, 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 boom. Pistachios going everywhere. So needless to say, I was up for the next 2 hours cleaning the bathroom. Me and everything else. I had to get in the shower. It was a nightmare. And I know that's TMI, but no, you don't want to blow out. All of them aren't that bad, and I haven't had one since. In fact, I've only had maybe a couple of leaks since, and they weren't bad at all, period. I couldn't even constitute them as a leak. I just constitute it as, because any leak I've ever had has never even come outside the bag. I just know I have it because your stoma will itch if you have a leak, or you might look down and notice that your bag and barrier extender has risen a little bit. If you see that, you just change it out. So I haven't had one to where it's soaked through and gotten on me and all that stuff. Never in public, nothing. You can do anything. Okay, so let's finish these and then we'll go on to the next one. Okay, now these are barrier rings. I used to wear these. My ostomy nurse insisted that I wear these barrier rings. And that's when I had my most recent leak, which was like back in July. And so I was telling the Coloplast guy, which is the brand of the bag I wear, I said, did y'all do something to the bags? I was like, because I had a leak. I was like, and I hadn't had a leak in well over a year. And so he's like, okay, so what's your supplies? And I read them off to him. He was like, what are you doing wearing a barrier ring? I said, because the nurse insisted that I wear the barrier ring. And he was like, no. He was like, our bags are raised, which they are. You just saw the bag, how it sticks out. He was like, the barrier ring is making the input go over the top of the flange or the bag, you know, and that's the reason why you had the leak. He's like, eliminate that. So I don't have these sent anymore, but I just wanted to show you this because some people do have to wear them, especially if their bag isn't a bag like mine. It may be flatter on the surface, so they do need something to, you know, raise things up so that the bag, you know, the input can go into the bag more easily instead of mine was shooting over the bag. That was my problem. Then you have the ostomy belt. After you put your bag on and your barrier extender and everything, you put this belt around you, hook it up, and it holds the bag snug, you know, around the, you can hear me clicking mine, around the bag, and it holds it, and it can prevent a leak too, because usually most people leaks will happen right on the side. So the belt covers that side, so it holds the bag down so that it doesn't peel up or push up. And usually that will happen, it'll peel up or push up if you left your bag on too long. We're instructed to change our bags every 3 days. You can wear a bag up to 2 weeks. If you have a good seal and you don't detect anything, if the bag isn't looking dirty or, you know, or worn, you can leave it on. And so, but in the summer, I change every 3 days, whether my bag looks new or not, because it's summertime. Simply because, and you don't want rashes or anything like that. And that brings us to our next item, stoma powder. And this is the same powder that you would use, medicated powder. Some people use powder like under their breast or around their neck, any type of crease. Good stuff. It's good stuff. Okay, so I do what they call crusting. And so what you do is, especially if there's irritation or if you think you might get irritation, I call mine pre-crusting because it keeps me from getting irritated. And so what I do when I change my bag, first of all, I'm bare stomach. And that's another thing. You can take a bath or a shower with an ostomy naked. You take your bag off. And a trick to the trade, if you've eaten. Now, if you don't eat before you take your bath or shower, nothing's going to come out. So you're fine. If you have eaten, oh, you're going to have input and it will start coming out. And so a trick to that, to stop it, eat a marshmallow. That's all you have to do. And the marshmallow, as it works its way through, because a marshmallow is sticky and gooey, it blocks off the stoma, but not to the point where you would have a blockage, because the sugars in the marshmallows will melt down after a few hours, and then the marshmallow will pass on through. So that's a trick of the trade. Okay, but anyway, for pre-crusting, what I do when I'm changing my bag, I take the powder and I put it around my stoma area, my peristomal skin as they call it. And then I take one of these, which is a no-sting barrier, wait, see, can't read. It's no-sting barrier film. So I open a packet of these and then I pat it over the powder. And what it does is it forms a crust because you're not rubbing the powder or anything. You can do that, but then you still would need to squeeze some more so that you have like a powder heel. And then you take your barrier film and pat it. The liquid from the barrier film goes around the powder, and then it will dry, and it dries fairly quick. And so you have your crusting, and that will keep your skin from getting irritated unless you're just allergic to the bags or whatever, which I'm not. To remove the bag, this is called, so when I'm getting ready to change the bag, this is called adhesive remover wipes. So what I do is, and I usually only need one, I open up the packet, and it's so liquidy, and then you have a pad in there too. I take the liquid, once I open it up, I take and pour the liquid around my bag, you know, around the sticky area, and I let it sit for a minute, and then I just pull it off. And then you take the pad, and you can wipe everything from around your stoma before you wash it and everything. So, and I love these. I use these for removing Band-Aids. Anything that has adhesive or that's sticky, from adhesive like tape, IV. I take these with me whenever I go in the hospital. I make sure I have these because when they get ready to remove my IV and they want to rip off the tape and stuff, I tell them, let me put this on first, and the tape just glides right off, and then you wipe all the sticky stuff away and you're home free. I love these things. I actually have given them away to people who, like, if they have to get a lot of shots or a lot of Band-Aids or whatever. And I'm gonna give some, I've been meaning to give some to my niece because little Nugget is 2, almost 3, and I'm quite sure he's probably scraped his knee at some point. And if she ever has to put a Band-Aid on him or, you know, something like that, she can easily get it off without it pulling hair in his skin. Another trick of the trade is Head and Shoulders. Why, might you ask? Head and Shoulders contains a chemical or an ingredient called zinc oxide. Flonase nose spray also contains zinc oxide, so you can use either or. I just prefer to use Head and Shoulders because it lasts longer, for one, and for me, it feels good. You can feel it, you know, working or whatever. I've never tried the Flonase, but I would think that that's hard because it's in a little pump spray and it costs more. But anyway, it has zinc oxide in it, and zinc oxide, what it does is it promotes healthy skin. And that's probably why it's in Head and Shoulders, because, you know, for dandruff and itch relief, and it provides the itch relief from around the stoma too, and it treats the skin. Perfect. It's the perfect trick of the trade and the perfect thing for us to have. I love it, and I use it every time I wash around my stoma. I wash with regular antibacterial soap first, you know, to keep things, you know, clean and whatnot, and then I wash with that afterwards. The second trick of the trade, baby oil. And what I do is what a lot of us ostomates do, put a little baby oil, a couple of drops in the bag, and I have my bottle. You know, I just take it from here and I fill this up, and then once this gets low, then I fill it up again. Baby oil lasts me about I've had this one for a year, and you see how much I have in this, so it doesn't take that much. I put a few drops in the bag, and what it does is it keeps your output moving, because some people say, oh, everything pancakes up at the top. Not if you use baby oil, because it's going to make everything slide down. Okay? And last but not least, the most important item, because you know the stigma, they want to say that ostomies smell really, really bad. Yes, they do, if you don't use the deodorant. And there's lots on the market, but the one that works for me, I haven't tried but one other one, and that one didn't work. And I was like, oh no, whoa, no. M9. And this can be bought by anybody. In fact, you better take your own to the hospital if you have an ostomy. For those of you ostomates out there, if you have an ostomy and you happen upon this video, always have your M9 with you, because you will see it throughout the hospital. Nurses use it because it's an odor eliminator. Nurses who smoke, they'll pour water in a spray bottle, and they'll put a couple of drops of the M9 in it, and when they go outside to smoke, wherever they're sneaking the smoke, in their cars or wherever, they spray the M9 around them with the water, and it eliminates the smell. You would never know. A nurse that smokes, you would never know. And so I see it all the time at the nurse's station, you know. But then if you better not ask for none, because you're not going to get it. So take your own. In fact, I've had some say, can you spare a little bit of that? We're out of it in the stock room, that type of thing. But anyway, this is the M9. And just like the baby oil, I put it in this bottle. I fill it up like once every couple of weeks, and 3 squirts in the bag. No smell whatsoever, period. It eliminates odor. In fact, I've given this to people who don't have ostomies. Yep. If they complain, you know, about somebody blowing up the bathroom, couple of drops in the toilet before you go. It's not like Poo-Pourri. Poo-Pourri masks the odor, so you smell, you know, the whatever they use for the potpourri and the rest. Okay, this eliminates. So if you put a drop of this in the toilet and then the person goes, or if you go behind it, you're not gonna smell a thing. So this is perfect for like if you're in public or anywhere that you want to use it, because it doesn't smell at all. It works. Alrighty, it works very well. I love the stuff. And that's my most important supply, because if I didn't have that, ooh, my goodness, I don't know what I would do. Okay, I'm putting Ernestine up, so we're getting ready to wrap this up. Where are we in minutes? Are we at 30 minutes? Ooh, we're at 45 minutes. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so we're going to try to keep this under an hour. Okay, now. Okay, so we talked about the supplies. Support. I'll just touch on that. We have ostomy groups. We have in-face groups. I don't go to any support group. I used to be in all the online groups, but the pity parties got on my nerves. I was like, let me just roll with this. But now if everybody knows I have an ostomy, and I have been contacted by many who have said, my aunt has to get an ostomy, or my son has to get an ostomy. It's a lot of different ones who have gotten an ostomy since I've gotten mine. And so I will be of service for anyone, who's getting an ostomy. But I stay out of those groups. They fight and everything else. And I didn't want that negativity around me. So I just came out of the groups. Every now and then I'll lurk. It's one that I do lurk in, but I don't really respond unless someone comes up with something that I know I can help them with. Then I'll respond. I'll come out of lurkdom for that. But other than that, nope. Okay, let's see, what else? Like I said, you can bathe. I told you about that. Okay, I told you what's allowed, not allowed. We talked about allowed. We talked about leaks and blowouts. We talked about the foods. Activities. You can do anything with an ostomy. You can swim. Believe me, if you're in a pool or in a lake or in the river or in the ocean, somebody in there has an ostomy. The bags are waterproof. That's number one. So a lot of people shower with the bag on. Some people do. And then some people shower with the bag off. It all depends. Now on the weekend, I shower with it off, but I've showered it with it on, during the week. The water rolls off like beads and it's automatically dry. So, and people don't get leaks while they're in a swimming pool or whatever. Most people change the bag before they get into the swimming pool out of a common courtesy, and then when they get out, they're fine. So, yep, you can swim with an ostomy. You can do anything with an ostomy, anything, skydive, you name it, you can do it with an ostomy. A lot of people do. In fact, for most people, it gives them their life back because they couldn't do those things prior to. Let's see. We name our stomas. Okay, we talked about stigma. We name our stomas. So my stoma's name is oklastoma. That's what I named him. Oh, here comes the mailman with the package. That's weird. But yep, my stoma's name is oklastoma. That's what I've named it. And so most of us do that because sometimes out of fun, or we do it because if we're out in public and we have to attend to it, instead of saying my stoma or my ostomy bag, if you don't want everybody around you knowing that you have one, you just say, yeah, it is. Oh, that's my U-step thing that's coming. Yay, finally. It was supposed to come on the 7th. It came today, the 4th. But anyway, yeah, so we'll refer to our stoma. I'll say, like if I have to get up to go dump it or whatever, I'll say, Sherry, I'm going to the bathroom to dump oklastoma or something like that. And no one would know, what I'm talking about unless they're an ostomate or whatever. And I've run into ostomates out in public, that type of thing. The other thing is bling. A lot of people bling their bags. And y'all know I blinged my walker. But people take their bags and they might put glitter around their bags. They'll do that once a month when their supplies come in. They'll put glitter around them. They'll draw on their bags, especially the artists. Then we also have bag covers. My mother's friend made me these bag covers. to sell, and no one wanted to buy them because this one lady, she started making them and giving them out free. She would give any ostomate 10. She would take her sewing material. She had a lot of scrap stuff, and so she advertised giving them for free. So that knocked me out. I didn't even get it off the ground, but I still have them. So, but anyway, these are ostomy covers. As you can see, I have a bag inside of one, and you cover it. So when you're wearing your bag, you can wear the bag out and no one sees the input. Well, no one's going to see your output. I said input. No one's going to see your output anyway, because the bags, your bags are opaque in color. You can get clear bags, but most people choose to get the opaque. And they just this past summer, started making colored bags. So I'm getting ready to get some brown ones, or you can get it to match your skin tone, well, brown, or whatever. You know, you can get whatever color. So that's the new thing with the ostomy bags, the new colored bags. Why hadn't someone thought of that before now? You know, I mean, it's new. It's something totally new. Unless people requested them and said, I want, you know, a bag. I wish I can get a bag that has color to it. Now, in other countries, I've seen where people have had colored bags. But here, we didn't have them. But now, we do. So I'll eventually get some. But anyway, this is what a bag cover looks like. And so I have different designs. She made Minnie Mouse. I have plenty more in there, too. Plenty more. But I just brought these out just so that you can see them. And you can see the hole in the back. And what you do is you put it, you slide your thing in it, and it faces this way. And then once your thing faces this way, then you stick the bottom of the bag down here. And when you need to dump the bag, you just pull it out, and then you open the bottom of the bag and you dump it. But yep, I have plenty of designs here that she did. I have one with popsicles that I couldn't find, but yep. To match any outfit. I wear these if I'm traveling. I'll wear my cover. I don't wear it out, although I have one. I did it like around family or something like that. But for the most part, I still have it in. But, you know, it's just extra security because if you do happen to have a leak or something like that, it's going to go in here. But I've never had that to happen. But, and then sometimes for design, you know, you just want to throw it on. Okay, so let's see, that's it. And then, oh, another thing, if you all have any questions, please feel free to ask. No question is too big or small. I will answer them all. Unless I don't know the answer, then I will tell you I don't know the answer to that. But to answer the most common questions, the one is always about the leak, of course. What happens if it leaks or whatever? You know what happens. You playing what I call chitty chitty bang bang, but put the SH instead of the CH. And that's what I played the day I had that blowout. But another thing people might want to know is maybe what does it feel like? The ostomy is totally numb. Your stoma is totally numb. You can't feel it. It has no feeling. And that's the reason they want us wearing stoma guards. I don't wear one because I'm not into sports or anything, but I could still get injured. And if you get injured, you know, that may cause you to have it closed up, and then they have to move it or whatever. You know, it can bleed. They bleed easily. Sometimes you may burn yourself or get injured and not even know it. And that can cause problems and infection, that type of thing. So they prefer that we wear a guard, you know, over our stoma. Okay, another question I'm usually asked is, well, about the activities, and I just answered that one. Then I answered about how does it feel. It was another question I had. Hold on. I'm gonna pause you because it was a good one, and I'm gonna think of it, and then I'm gonna come back. Hold on. Okay, I just thought of it. I knew as soon as I hit the pause button, I would think of it. Another good question that I've been asked too is, what do you do if you run out of supplies? People do all the time. You have ostomy closets. That's one. You are to either call your doctor if you can, or you can go to the hospital and you let them know that you ran out of ostomy supplies or bags for whatever reason. Some people, it might be a problem where the bag is defective or whatever. And so if that's the case, it may not stay on, and then you have to keep changing it. So your 30-day supply just all of a sudden runs out. So therefore, the hospital will usually supply you with an emergency supply of it, or you can go to the ostomy closet to get bags, or you can reach out. You know, a lot of our group members reach out all the time in the chat groups. But then it got to the point where people who were just taking advantage started doing it, and we knew that's what was the case, because someone would offer them bags or whatever and say it's in the mail or whatever. Then they'll go to two other groups and have the same request: I'm out or whatever, or I'm about to run out. Maybe they're trying to accumulate a lot, but if someone has told you, I'm going to send you a box of bag and all this stuff, and then it's just so many different reasons, you know, where people, and then we got the freaks who come up in the group too. Oh my God. Oh, we won't even get into that. But anyway, just know they nasty, okay? So we have to deal with all that too. But okay, so if you run out, those are some of the things you can do, or you can reach out to your local. The advice is to reach out to your local ostomates. And we do have a local closet. And if someone needs something, and I have given away bags before, I've given away the M9 before to fellow ostomates. It's been a long time. In fact, one of my home nurses came to me. One of her patients ran out. Actually, she ran out because the supplies were not delivered on the day that they were supposed to be, and the weekend was coming up. So when they didn't come that Friday, that meant she was going to have to go the whole weekend without her supplies, and she had none. And so the nurse came to me. She popped up at my house. She was like, listen, she was like, do you have any extra supplies? I was like, yes, I do. And so I gave her enough stuff to get the lady through for the month, actually, because I keep extra stuff. I have a stockpile because my insurance has been very generous with my supplies. I get everything. I'm paid for 100%. Well, not for long, though, because I'm going to be paying a copay soon. But mine has been paid 100%. And so I stockpile it. And my charity, other than if a local needs something, my charity is hurricane relief. What we are instructed to do in the event, and that is another question. What would you do if there was a natural disaster in the event of a hurricane, earthquake, any type of natural disaster? Home fire, you can have that. I could have a home fire and all my extra supplies could be burnt down. So things like that happen. And there you are with no supplies and an ostomy. We are instructed to wear a bread bag. So I've got bread bags put away in the event of a dire emergency. And what you would do is you would take some tape and tape that bread bag around you, and that's what you will live with until you can get to some supplies. You have to do something. Hurricane Katrina. And that is what prompted me, because I watched the documentary called When the Levees Broke. And it was this one guy talking about that there was someone there who didn't have ostomy bags and was stuck in that convention center. And I was like, oh, that was just horrible. And so anytime a major hurricane strikes or a major earthquake, and they bring the Red Cross truck, it usually be right up the street from me. Whenever they bring it, last year I took a 6-month supply of ostomy supplies when they had that hurricane and those people were stuck. I forget where they were stuck, but they had a relief truck to take to those people. And so I took a 6-month supply and sent them. And I've sent other supplies before. Whenever there's an earthquake, I'll send the supplies, and hurricanes. So this year has been a quiet hurricane season, although we just had a tropical wave begin, and they said it's more than likely will turn into a major hurricane, and it seems to be headed to the United States. So if it does, I will be ready. I will pack up some of my stockpile, and I will send it. And I send everything, the M9, everything that's needed. Bags, I'll usually send like 2 or 3 boxes. And then I always add a note in it. And I put to my ostomate, and then I add my information. If you need more, let me know. Call me, that type of thing. I've never had anyone to call me, but I'm quite sure that they've gone. I've tried to donate to homeless shelters, but during the pandemic, it wasn't until like 2023, somewhere during that time, when they released the pandemic. But they were nursing homes, not hospitals, but nursing homes, homeless shelters. They would not take the extra supplies. They said they can't do it. And I'm like, come on. I'm quite sure you have people in there that need this stuff. They said that they're not allowed to do it, so I don't do it. But you would know that you would think, that someone, especially people who are not insured and whatnot, and they depend on it or whatever, but they will not take donations. So, but when it comes to those natural disasters, believe me, they're taking them. So anyway, so that's it, you guys. I think I've covered everything. So we're going to wrap this up because at least I think I kept it under an hour. I'm right at an hour and 49 seconds. So we're going to wrap it up. So thank you for listening to this video. I know I was all over the place. I had my notes and stuff and still ended up rambling. I always feel like I ramble when I talk. But anyway, thank you for helping me to celebrate this World Ostomy Day. And remember, if not for my ostomy, I would not be here talking to you. And for those who know someone with an ostomy, more than likely it's the same with them. So you still have your loved one here with you because the ostomy has saved their life or whatever. And if you have an ostomy, give a shout out. Say hi. Even if you're not subscribed, if you happen to see this video, just say hi, and let me know what you did for World Ostomy Day. Alrighty, so I will talk to you guys later, and may God bless you all. Thank you once again for being so supportive and for listening to this ramble about the ostomy. I hope you learned something today, and if you're ever faced with needing to get one, or a relative or someone that you know, send them to me, or you can ask questions to be of support. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Nothing is off limits with the ostomy. So if you have anything to add or to ask, please feel free to do so. I have no problem with it. In fact, it would honor me to be able to answer your questions if you have any. And don't be, shy about asking. Just ask, and I will give you an answer. All right. I will talk to you guys later, and may God bless you all. Have a wonderful day. And to the crochet group, I will be on tomorrow. Woo! We got one coming tomorrow. We have to talk about the virtual reality. Yes, I have it. Okay, y'all. We're going to be talking about that. I'll be showing you the new bib and what else? Projects that I'm working on. So it's just going to be a hodgepodge of stuff for our Sunday episode. So I will see you on tomorrow. Bye-bye. And to the gardening group, your video is coming up for the Farmers Market Report. Talk to you later, and may God bless you all. Bye-bye.